Good evening, everybody. At this moment, I would like to do our salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, at this time, can I get a motion to approve our meeting agenda as is? That's Christy and Chance. All in favor? Okay, at this time, open it up to community forum. We don't have anything from Pearl, but I would like to take this moment to recognize a special person, Mr. Mike Lawyer, for his years of service on our board. He is had to resign due to moving out of the district, and I'd like to personally thank him, and I know the board would like to thank him. Everybody, I've seen the emails that have all come around, and Mike, thank you very much for your years of service. We will miss you. Does anybody else have anything? There is one more thing that I would like to discuss with the board, and that is, not that we are not going to miss Mike, but we will have an open spot. I did send an email out to everybody of who my wishes were. I didn't know, everybody was okay with that, but I didn't want to know if you wanted me to entertain that person to get a hold of them. Yep. It's up to you.
Yep.
So I have no problem getting a hold of Ken. Okay, so I'll do that.
Randy, just want to say for the record,
yeah.
When somebody leaves, there's two choices you have.
You can say it for me.
No, go ahead. You've been.
There's basically two choices. We can open up the voting to the public, which would cost the district extensively, and it's roughly 6 months that we would have to cover. And at that 6 months, they would have to have a full vote again. So, which I know this was several years ago. It was over $6,000. And I don't think at this time that we really should entertain that, or else the board can choose a candidate for that term, and I think that's the better thing. And then after the 6 months, then they could either run for the board for that open spot, which would be a one-year term, plus there would be also 3 open 3-year terms. So that's basically, I felt that that was a better move in the long run. And it doesn't cost the district really anything. Okay. On to special presentations. We're doing Millard Hawk with Mrs. Smoldick.
It is my pleasure and honor as the principal of Millard Hawk to be presenting to you tonight.
So push the button.
Push the button.
Push the button.
Derek's coming.
How about now? You need a pen.
Shout. Out of all the ones that we need to fix.
See, there's no button.
Does it work now? Here.
I don't think so.
Should bring you a mic. If there's people in the audience wondering why we need a microphone, when this goes on our website, if that doesn't have a microphone, then the people can't hear it.
How about now?
That's what I know.
Okay, let's try this again. All right, it is my pleasure and honor as the principal of Millard Hawk to be presenting to you tonight. Before I get started, I just want to thank my staff that came out to support me here, and not only to be here tonight with me, but also for the warm welcome that they've given me as I joined Millard Hawk over the summer. So those of you that have been on the board for a while now know that anytime I'm up here to present to the board, I usually talk about reading. So tonight is no different, and maybe next year I'll change, maybe. But tonight, we're going to focus specifically on there we go. Okay, so we are going to talk tonight about first grade walk to skills. And so tonight we're going to talk about what that skills time actually is, and why we made the change to our first grade skills time, and then what it actually looks like in the 4 different classrooms that we have at Millard Hawk. So to start off, first grade skills time is the curriculum CKLA, which is our core knowledge language arts, and in that what we do is we incorporate reading and writing in tandem. And so it takes practicing blending, which is reading, and segmenting, which is spelling, and puts them together. Students work with decodable stories, which is entirely made up of spellings and words that the kids can sound out in its entirety, based on the skills that they've been explicitly taught. So we focus on it together, and then I added a little piece in there about how it advances in 3rd grade. But like I said, tonight we're going to focus on first grade. So how this all came about was we knew that students' skill deficits, we were going to have to, that was going to be a challenge to us, because last year students, when these first graders were in kindergarten, some of them were 100% virtual the entire year. Some of them came to school 2 days a week, some of them 4 days a week until April 30th, and then they came to school, all students came to school 4 days a week. So we knew that there were definitely going to be skill deficits with these students, but we didn't really know how it was going to all play out until we had the students in front of us this September and were able to test those skills. So the chart that is in front of you is our benchmark screening data from DIBELS. And so this is only just one piece of information that we used when we were placing students in their first grade skills time for their classrooms. But as you can tell from the chart, we had a majority of the students were well below or below benchmark. So just to give you an idea of the total number of students, it's 76 students we have represented in this chart. And we had 34 of them are well below and 15 were below. So as you can see, we had a large number of students that we knew that we had to address those needs so that they could advance when it came to their literacy skills. Because as we know, those primary grades are definitely the ones where those foundational reading skills is what they need to have in order to be successful as they become older and read more complex text. So our first grade walk to skills is, what we did was taking the data, we grouped the students according to where they were at. So not only did we look at the DIBELS data, which was that chart, but we also had a phonics screener that we did with the students, and then the teachers also gave a placement test to see where the students were at. So we had multiple pieces of data to figure out where these students would best be placed. So we grouped them according to where they were at, but we still needed to, we know that we needed to maintain grade level standards. So we had to come up with a plan that still addressed grade level standards, but then also had time to tackle those learning gaps and close those learning gaps for students. And so we had to come up with a plan. We worked on this with our reading coach, Gail Cachon, and she worked with our first grade teachers as well to come up with the best plan of what this would look like. So what it looks like in the different classrooms, we have our classroom A, which has our classroom teacher and our special ed teacher, and then our classroom B, which has our classroom teacher and teaching assistant. The original plan was just to have a classroom teacher and the special ed teacher with those students who had the largest learning gaps. But when we looked at the data, we couldn't fit all of those students into one classroom. So we had to not only take a look at dividing those students among 2 classrooms. I will actually talk about classroom C, and you'll see that there are some additional students. that also had skill deficits that we needed to place accordingly as well. So we have those 2 classrooms where they are working on their regular first grade level lessons. We have made modifications to those, though, for them to be successful. We have had some scaffolds in place in order for them to work on grade level standards. But then we also break it into some other groups where they are working at skill levels at the kindergarten level with those skills that aren't yet met, that they need to work on in order to meet the first grade standards. So they do that in a small group, and then they also work on phonics at their level, not grade level standards, but at the student level in small groups as well. And some of those reading skills that they're working on letter sounds, they're working on rhyming, they're working on segmenting and blending. So those are the types of things that you'll see if you were to go into one of these classrooms. Then we go into classroom C, which you'll see that lesson has first grade lesson, but not as many modifications as you would see in classroom A or B. And then we also have some of those students working at skills in the kindergarten level, but they are at a higher level than classroom A and B, and they are working in those in small groups. And then we also have then we have classroom D, which is the regular first grade skills lesson that's taught as is for first graders. So because of all of these classrooms that are working with the students at their level in small groups, this allows for us to kind of have that more individualized attention. So instead of just addressing the whole class, the smaller groups, we can progress monitor a little closely to make sure that the students are participating, that their students are grasping that material. And it gives us the flexibility to move to different paces when those gaps are closed for those students.
Jen, I just have a question on this.
Mhm.
In classroom D, is there any small group work?
Yeah. They will do break into different activities, but that one is at the grade level and it's taught as is.
Right, but I assume the students that are at above grade level are also in classroom D.
At or above or classroom D.
Right, so are there small groups being formed for the students that are above grade level that are being taught to still be progressing?
Yeah, so part of a differentiation is what we do in all of our classrooms. So that is something that, yeah, if there's students that are above, we definitely challenge them and stretch them to do different activities to meet their needs so that we can have them continue to grow.
Right.
So then what's next for us? So because we have such skill deficits, these students not only receive some specialized instruction in their classroom during our skills time, but they are also receiving additional interventions during their AIS time to address those gaps. So they're kind of getting double dipped here. And then progress monitoring to see the growth in these students. So we should be able to see where, how we're doing with this program within the next week or so, as the grade level is just wrapping up with Unit 1 and working on some progress monitoring. So it'll take us a little time to see how we are doing with this model. So this is something definitely to be continued, and so more of an update as we get down the road. Questions?
So,
I don't think any of them.
all right, so I'll just be loud. So how's the integration of the AIS for the CARES Act money, Tom? Right, so are you receiving, is there extra AIS help with the CARES Act folks to help this gap?
We do. We were able to hire an additional AIS provider.
Right.
So we have that that ability to form those smaller groups to individualize instruction for those students. So having an additional AIS provider definitely helps in this.
Okay, well, I think it's important to talk about is that, you kind of recognize that there could be a gap, right? That the numbers came in where it wasn't below where you got the results, the negative results that you thought you might get, and then you've got the ability to correct it, right? Best we can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that
We're also using the CARES money for tutoring, so it's $40 an hour for staff. For some staff, they're able to do that. They don't have small children at home, but that is up there for any staff member able to do that. The $25, if it's during their planning time, they fill out the sheet to be able, and that comes out of that as well. That's a good benefit as well, because sometimes teachers, after school, they have their own young ones at home. So those are opportunities to be able to tap into the money over the next 3 years to do exactly the things that she's talking about.
Yeah, because, I mean, ultimately, you're gonna have, you know, these first graders are gonna be going to second grade, so if we don't make it better on, you know, that level,
Yeah.
in the next couple of years, it's just gonna come down, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I look at the building-wide data for us, our upper grades, their skill deficits aren't nearly close, but you think about those fifth graders, they were in school during the normal school year time, during those foundational primary grades that were able to get this foundational skills for literacy, where these students, it's a challenge, but we notice it, we know it, and we're addressing it.
Well, yeah, and I could, I would just commend it, it's 1 November, you recognize it, you got a plan in action, you got the resources available, and let's see if we get it turned around, right? Congratulations to me, to you guys. That's how I would do it. Right, we could ignore it for 2 years and then try to do something about it.
Can you put that in perspective? What, as far as percentages or number, pre-COVID, what was typical? Is this like 2 more students or 20 more students?
So, in talking with my grade levels, when I talk to my second grade teachers and I talk to, we're looking at, Millard Hawk is a very veteran staff, so they've taught that grade level for many years. And so in having data conversations about where we're at and where students are, a lot of the teachers are like, these are skills that we would see from the previous grade. So it's not just first grade that have to work with kindergarten skills. Our second grade teachers are saying, a lot of these skills that these students are lacking were things that they should have picked up in first grade. So definitely, it's something that we need to address in multiple grades. And as to where we've been in years past, that would be a question that probably would have to go to Aaron Phillips, as my knowledge of data from what would be normal for elementary. I can tell you about the middle school, but I would have to look into that.
And to Aaron too then, as far as comparing Millard Hawk's changes to their norm in the other 3 elementary schools that we have in the district? That's an Aaron thing too.
The other elementaries they're depending on the grade, are doing some similar things that we're doing with Walk to Skills. So it's not just exclusive to our building, but there are other buildings doing it as well.
Because they saw the same type of impact.
Mm-hmm.
Is that pretty, what they're seeing is typical of the other 3, or better or worse than the
So
other
I'm
3?
I'm trying to find data in my drive right now.
Okay,
that's
yeah,
indicative of- because I can't go, I'm trying to go fall of a year when they were all here, so that's what I'm
3 years
right
ago.
now. Yeah.
And then speaking with the other superintendents in our county and in neighbor Onondaga County, this is a consistent issue that we're all dealing with right now. Because of the massive disruption over the past 2 school years, COVID related, that we're all looking to utilize that CARES money. Like one of the things that I'm thrilled with is that we're getting more coaching hours for our Oswego County Literacy Initiative, which is huge, which should pay dividends as well. But again, it's not isolated as a Central Square issue, and I'm sure you guys are all aware of that. This is what we are facing across the country because of COVID. Want to move on, and then Aaron, you find
I
something?
found it. So at Millard Hawk in the year of 1819, the data that I have is they had about 40% of the kids so it's almost like the numbers were reversed, were at or above. So we knew coming in, so we've got walk to skills in all 4 buildings. It looks a little bit different in each building based on the building's need, but the format and the structure is there. We've got tier 1 things in place across the district. We've formalized some things for teaching small groups and AIS, so we're trying to intervene, knowing that what we were going to get was going to be a struggle.
So it sounds like every year is a struggle, because 40% is pretty high too.
Well, 40%
so
is
there's-
not great, right?
Which was part of the discussion about our preschool capabilities and potentially dual-year kindergarten, right? So all those are, those pre-COVID conversations, are those plans still going forward to address this long-term? Or do we, because of this is now a flaming big fire, have we kind of shifted to?
Yeah, do you remember before COVID hit, we were looking to, and we did, we got rid of the waiting list, which was huge for our UPK, because we have a grant system. So there are a lot of school districts that don't even have a UPK within the school district, so the parents have to pay to put their kids in UPK, which is the majority of school districts in Onondaga County do not have that. We have this grant. Well, under the grant that we get every year, we have to, there's criteria that we have to have, and we have to have a like a lottery system. So what we did is we hired our own teachers, Central Square teachers, to go outside of that, because early intervention is huge. So right now it's an uphill battle for all of our teachers, who are amazing teachers, but periodically they have students that go out on quarantine, and they get another, could be the same kid that goes out on quarantine, depending on the close contact of a boss or a home situation, which makes it very difficult. So they're doing their very best, but like we've said from the beginning, remote learning never replaces the traditional in-class experience for the students. We understand that. So even with the obstacles that we have in place, to answer your question, yes, we still want to go back and look at long-term. There are districts that have invested in a 3-year-old program, and they've seen great gains. That needs to be, and it was going to be before COVID, where we had a community forum, because we love to have community cafes, community forums, when we could get everybody together, because that is something that is not a requirement for school districts, but it's something that we've said at many board meetings publicly, that there is a direct correlation between early intervention and the success of students long term. Especially, we have some families that are hard working class families that are working multiple jobs, where you don't have as many stay-at-home mothers or fathers that can be there, for that child, to give them what some parents have the opportunity to be able to do. So with all of that being said, we are still looking at those opportunities long-term, what we can do for early intervention, so it doesn't go back to how it was before, where there's a lottery system that if you just randomly, you may not have a spot, which is fine for somebody that can afford to pay send their kid to a really good program. For the ones that can, then they're already a step behind before they even start their experience in school. So those are things that we are still absolutely looking at.
And the other part too, Kathy, is that we had, so the data I was looking at was after our first year of the OCLI initiative. So we really only had a year of that, and a lot of that was it was the learning process. So we were in a lot of PD that year. So we really we started to make changes, and then COVID. So then we couldn't really implement those changes to the extent that we needed or wanted to, because we were remote and, a lot of different situations. So we're back now, and we have the added coach in 2 of our buildings, so that they've got added time there, and they're working directly with the classroom teachers again. So we're trying to build that capacity back up and get back to where we were 2 years ago. So as a county, we knew that it was an issue. That's why we joined, and said we're going to be part of the Oswego County Literacy Initiative. Started to implement that, got kind of stopped, and now we're back at it. So.
And I also think it's just really, really important that anybody here and anybody at home watching this understands that before we can even hit the teachers are tasked with a huge responsibility of not only teaching the curriculum, the standards, but the social and emotional strain that these children seem to be under in every district, it seems like. But we're seeing it in ours where we're doing wellness checks where there our kids are being taken to, they're being CPAP, they're being taken to St. Joseph's Hospital because of the severity of need and the struggles and depression and anxiety that we've seen throughout this pandemic. And it's not just high school, it's not just the middle school. We've had elementary students that this has happened. We have a system called Go Guardian that's hooked up on all of the Chromebooks, and it's shocking that our administrators, when they're at home, it could be 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock on a Saturday or Sunday, they get notified that the child has been looking up things about suicidal thoughts. And so that automatically triggers a principal. The principal will call me at 9 o'clock on a Saturday and say, hey, we just got this. This is what's going on. The parent is immediately notified. The last situation, the parent wasn't home. We had a police officer go to the house, met. The parents got back to the house, met, took care of the situation, and we're still providing additional assistance to those families because kids are really struggling right now. I think everybody overall is struggling. Our teachers are asked to do a tremendous amount, our administrators, our bus drivers, our clerical custodians, but we're really seeing with the youngest of students that I'm personally seeing when I get to go to the buildings, no matter how hard our teachers are working, we're still seeing students with significant issues because of the stress that they're just experiencing during the pandemic. And then on top of that, we're also trying to increase their reading lexile and all the other things. But it's pretty scary. I would say it's sad to see that these kids are experiencing no fault of their parents or anything like that. But whether it's the mask mandates that we're under, it's the quarantine guidelines, everything that our district has to comply with is clearly playing a toll on these kids.
Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Mrs. Smollett.
Thank you.
And on to superintendent's goals with Mr. Calabufo.
Yep.
Okay, so as you can see, the four main categories have stayed the same. Those are our four priorities throughout the district. We have the increased instructional engagement. We have implement sound fiscal practices to support student learning. We have providing an atmosphere that promotes 21st century citizenship. We have fostering a partnership between the district and the community. So out of those four categories comes our goals. So at the elementary schools, we have school staff work collaboratively to increase on or above level oral reading fluency, that's ORF referred as, rates for third graders and fifth graders, proficiency composite scores on DIBELS by 3% over the 21-22 school year. Middle school, staff will provide engaging quality lessons in accordance to our district's reopening plan and our school comprehensive educational plan through the use of differentiation and a variety of instructional techniques in order to engage students as a way to increase and improve student performance through a 4% increase in STAR Math and ELA, as well as 4% of students failing 2 or more classes. At the high school level, the percentage of high school students failing 2 or more courses will decrease by 4%. The 2021 percentages of students failing 2 or more courses at 9th grade, it was 38% at 113. In 10th grade, it was 33% at 96. In 11th grade, it was 32% at 88, and in 12th grade, it was 12% at 36.
Tom, just a quick question. Is that drastically higher than it was in the years before COVID?
I'd have to look at this. I'd have to have Connie pull that up. I do know that when it comes to some of our students who are our at-risk students, that's where you see the same amount of students, whether you're talking about chronic absenteeism, they're the ones that make up that. So you can look at our attendance rate, and it could be 96%. But when you actually look at the chronic absentee rate, it can be very high, but it's on that small amount. No different than 4 years ago when we talked about discipline. It was a small amount of students made up the majority of the discipline infractions.
Right, but what I'm looking at here is 9th grade, there's 113 students. That's all, one student is one student, right? So 38% of our ninth grade class is failing 2 or more courses?
In 2021, yes.
Right, so that's what I'm asking, so.
Yes, that was a
that's
lot higher.
That's gotta be a lot higher than our chronically absent ninth graders.
Correct, that's the pandemic that, yes, that was drastically impacted.
100% virtual instruction.
Right, but that's what so that's what I'm asking.
Yes.
Is what, I don't expect you to know what it was before, but I mean, is that drastically higher than it used to be?
Yes, that was very high. It was very high.
We're measuring it again every quarter, we'll be looking at it, so they're just about to enter a time period where it'll be reviewed to see what they're, progress monitoring every quarter, what percentage of students are failing 2 or more.
But we just got, I wanna say, what was it, 2 or 3 years ago, Rita, we made that dashboard with all the data.
Yep.
Was that a data point, students failing 2 or more courses? So is it something that we could look at from before COVID, just to educate ourselves?
I don't remember that being on there, but we'll check.
Okay.
We can go back and look. Here's the thing, our teachers were dealing with a lot of students that were just turning their cameras off when they were
Oh,
remote.
I'm not, if this is COVID related, I'm not
Yeah.
blaming the teachers, I'm just, to have almost half of this class failing 2 or more classes is stark to me.
Yeah.
And so that's why I was wondering, whether that's COVID, which I know COVID brought, a whole new set of challenges and made teaching virtually impossible for many, but, I just was interested to see what those numbers might have looked like in, say, 2018.
Sure.
Christy, the bigger challenge, if you remember the year before, we did not have a high failure rate, but we did pass-fail grades in secondary.
Right, that's why I'm saying, before all of this.
Before
COVID
COVID.
ever impacted the educational program.
The last normal year was nothing like that.
Okay, which is what I'm hoping, but
Yes.
when I saw that, I was quite surprised.
What's typical, 10-ish %?
Failing 2 or more. No, you might be looking at like an 18% range. It all depends on.
Still low.
Yeah, but I mean, you chronic absenteeism correlate to that in terms of percentage?
Absolutely.
So it would be about the same?
Because chronic
Yes.
absenteeism, remember, they're missing 10%.
No doubt. I mean, there's no question that if they're chronically absent, I'm not surprised they're failing 2 or more courses. That's not shocking to me, but I don't think 40% of our kids are missing chronically. So that's where,
Actually, chronic absenteeism numbers should be coming up.
I've got it on here.
okay.
Got it on there.
Yeah, but again, I just want anybody that's watching this from home to remember that for the bulk of that school year, our middle school and high school were fully remote.
I'm not, no, I know.
No, I'm not saying it for you, I'm saying for people at home, or anybody in the audience that's watching this, that it was a struggle to get them to connect. And we totally understand that there could be situations where their younger brother or sister could be quarantined, and they were taking care of them when they were at home as well. So, yeah. No, it's a good question, though.
Tom, circle back real quick. What are our rates for the middle school for, the percentage of students failing 2 or more classes? Where are we at with the middle school in comparison to the high school?
I don't have those on me right here. Connie, if you can pull them up while we keep going and come back to it, or I can just send it out to the whole board in the morning. But I would say it's probably very similar to that. It was a struggle at the middle school as well. It was in the same situation where the kids were home up until the last 2 months of the school year. And it was very difficult. Some students just didn't do well remotely like they would in the classroom. As I said maybe about 25 minutes ago when I said that nothing can compare to the in-school experience. And which is the reason right now I just want to get off on a tangent, but I want the people to know that I've had parents saying, oh my God, we have 250 cases right now. We are leading by far the county in COVID cases. Are you going to switch to remote? The answer is absolutely not. We're going to do everything in our power to be able to stay open. And here's a very telling number. So last year we had 216 total COVID cases throughout the entire 2020-2021 school year. Well, before November started today, we've already far surpassed that. But with that being said, the number of staff members I can count on 2 hands, and the majority of them I can count on 2 hands, were not fully vaccinated. So we do have, I can count on 1 hand, the number of staff members who are fully vaccinated that have actually tested positive, where last year it was literally at least half of the total number of 216 that tested positive. So I say this to let anybody know watching this, that as long as we have the bus drivers that are able to transport those students to school, we are going to continue to do that. Myself, Connie Galvan, and Aaron Phillips all got our clearance from the DOT and from state education that we are occasional drivers. Now we're qualified for that. Not to drive school buses, but if it's the suburban and that means that we could free up a driver that can then drive other students, we will absolutely be doing this, which seems to be the norm right now with district office staff in most districts. Okay, so the next one is fiscal responsibility and decision making. First one, to initiate the new capital project, work collaboratively with King & King, that's the district's chosen architects, and Turner Construction, which is a construction management firm. The director of facilities, Paul Brissett, best in the business. Our business manager, phenomenal, right over there, Maureen Ladd. And the building level administrators for a capital project for a May 22 referendum vote. The last capital project we had, we saved millions of dollars because we had closed CSI prior to that. And so we were able to actually shorten the scope. And so the conversations of capital projects, they're going to get more and more and more detailed in these meetings as we go along. Because it's very important that the people in the audience, the people at home, everybody that works in this district and lives in this district should know that we had a building condition survey done approximately, Maureen, was that 5 years ago? And it was $140 million worth of things that needed to be done. So we had a capital project, the referendum in 2017, roughly $47 million that went into that. Then we had a roughly $20 million capital safety and security project, which they've done a phenomenal job. Our buildings are definitely safer. One point of entrance, it goes into the locked vestibule. So we're doing all of those the things that the community wanted when we used to have those community forums for safety and security capital project. So the next step is the next building. By being able to utilize CSI really allowed us to shorten the scope and the duration for Millard Hawk, which was basically gutted. It had been many years before that, the building had actually had significant work done to it. So that's going to be kind of like the staple, the example for the other elementary buildings. So the next capital project we put together will be hitting the next elementary building and so on and so forth. No increase to the tax levy will be with the continued fiscal sound decision making. So we didn't increase the school taxes for this school year, and we're not increasing the school taxes for next school year. So we're able to do that. We're utilizing the COVID relief funds wherever and whenever we can. That is a total of roughly $13 million that has to be used over 3 years or it's gone. It's in grant submission form, so we have to put in grants to be able to get this. There are certain things that qualify to be in that and then other things that do not. Again, the remaining fund balance amount of over 4% will decrease with a plan to ask voters to authorize a capital reserve fund in May 2022. Now, we were never going to ask the community because we are in really good financial standing right now. We're really good right now. We've made a series of really strong, sound decisions from closing the old district office that was a standalone building that did not get certain kind of aid in that because students were not actually in that building. And we recognized that we had space in our high school, and that's where our whole district office is now located. We continue to make sound quality decisions that are fiscally responsible, but it would be wrong. I did not want to be the superintendent nor Maureen be the business manager to tell the taxpayers that we're doing very well right now. We made a series of really good decisions, and yet we're going to ask you to put more money in a reserve, capital reserve, which is the very best kind of reserve that our auditors have told the board members that sit on that committee is the best one that you can do is that capital reserve fund, but then also go back and then raise the school levy. I know some districts do that. I just don't want to be the superintendent that says we're in good financial standing right now, but we're going to tax you for the sake of taxing you. So we're not doing that. Efficient use of the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act. That's the the CRRSA and the American Rescue Plan. Basically, this is the federal money that's come down for COVID relief for districts to be able to utilize to accomplish closing the skill gap that took place because of COVID in all school districts, but then also allow us to stay operational. So we have a number of things that we never thought that we were going to need. A COVID coordinator, a transportation COVID coordinator. We never thought that out of 100 bus runs, double that because of AM and PM bus runs, so 200 bus runs, that we would need to have accurate seating charts, dated, because we could very well, and I'm sure our COVID coordinator right now, because we had COVID cases, is going back as we speak 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 days to look at bus 409. I'm just using that as an example. So anyone has bus 409, I'm just making that number up. To be able to look at the AM run and the PM run to find out where those kids were sitting, because we're obligated and required by the health department to follow their guidelines about how close somebody can be seating on the bus, even though they're wearing masks at all times, that they have to then be quarantined if they are not fully vaccinated. So that's very difficult to do, especially when we have our head of transportation driving buses regularly. Our assistant director of transportation was doing this as well, but she's out on family medical. Very, very great person, very dear to the district, what she's going through right now. Our head mechanic and 2 other mechanics are regularly driving as well. So it's very difficult to make sure that we're accurately getting the right bus seating charts without that transportation COVID coordinator, which the board will be approving today, which qualifies to come out of that $13 million that we have 3 years to be able to utilize. So these are the decisions that we are making as a school district to not only close the skill gap, which we were talking about when Jennifer Smolnik gave her presentation, and then Aaron jumped in, because we recognize that now more than ever we have to make sure that we're able to provide our teachers with what they need to be able to teach these students that are already struggling so much. We have hired more social workers, we've hired more school psychologists, counselors, to be able to provide, again, what the students need to be able to be successful academically. Central Square School District, okay, so now this one right here, again, this is the 21st century citizenship. The school district will remain an overall daily attendance rate of 95%. The district had a daily attendance rate of 93.6 throughout the 2021 school year. Each of our 6 schools will decrease our chronic absenteeism rate by 3%. The chronic absenteeism rate throughout the 2021 school year was 29.6%. Students are considered chronically absent if they are absent or excused or unexcused for 10% or more of their enrolled instructional days. So that's a rolling scale. Obviously, you have more days, that number kind of comes down a bit, but the first couple weeks of school and month of school, if you miss a certain amount of days, then obviously you get flagged as being chronically absent. Increase overall graduation rate by 2% and 4% for students with disabilities. At any time, anybody can go on the school report card and you can type in by county, you can just put in Central Square, and it gives you a ton of really good information. So you can see how our students that are identified, those are students that are that have an IEP, that receive special education services, and where they were successful, and then compare that to the overall population, and you can just pull out those of the general ed students. The 2021 data should be released very soon. It has not been released yet. When it does, I will send that to the entire board, and when we post this on our website, that will be included with that. But we'll update that. June 20, so that's the 1920 school year, the overall graduation rate was 87%. General education students, it was 89%. Students with disabilities, it was 75%. June 2019, 84%. General education students was 88%. Student with disabilities was 54%. That was really, that's not good. So that's something that we have been looking at, and how are we addressing that with our special needs students. And again, to qualify to be in that category, you just have to have an IEP. So these are things that we want all students to be successful. Our slogan is, as one we rise, together we soar. That's all of our students, general ed students and students with disabilities. Again, this is the, every school in the district will effectively communicate. This is the goal right here about increasing that communication. We'll effectively communicate with parents and students regarding instructional program as well as other aspects of the educational program that help foster a learning environment that is safe, welcoming, nurturing, and promotes a healthy, strong school community. A student and parent survey will be administered in June that will address our overall success. I had a conversation with a parent today that was probably no less than an hour and 45 minutes. The parent was very concerned about the lack of engagement with the district with the home, but in having the conversations, a lot of the concerns that the mother had were very legitimate concerns, but there were issues regarding COVID-19 and restrictions we can have. So prior to that, we used to be able to have, especially at the elementary level, you would have the PTOs that done phenomenal community building events where the teachers would go, and it was just a great sense of community. There were bounce houses and just great participation, feel good, great opportunities. Unfortunately, with all of the COVID quarantines and guidelines and social distancing, we still do stuff, but of course, it's nothing like it looked before. Well, my whole administration team will be the first to recognize that. There are things that we have to do. Unfortunately, they are guidelines set forth by the New York State Health Department and by the New York State Education Department that we must comply with, and the governor's office. We're just hoping like it could happen in the summer. In the summer, we were full on back to normal. We were running basketball camps and other sports camps. We had students that were coming in for summer school, enrichment activities. Masks were completely optional. We had no COVID cases. We had over 1,000 students a week in our middle school and our high school, and that included elementary students who were being housed at the secondary level. It was great. And then the Delta variant hit. And then the cases, before you knew it, started to skyrocket in the wrong direction. But when they get back, and when we're allowed to get back, we will get back to that great, strong school community that we have. We will expand Red Hawk University to provide ongoing sessions for parents and guardians with students in all 6 of our schools on topics such as drug, alcohol, vaping, prevention, student anxiety and depression, cyberbullying, internet safety, social media awareness, and specific educational topics that parents have requested. A lot of parents wanted more information on autism and things like that because it seems at an astronomical rate the number of autistic diagnoses across our country have been massively on the increase, and parents could find themselves, much as I personally as a parent have shared with this school community, that my youngest child has autism, and it's very frustrating, and you want to know why is this happening to my child. And there are things, there's respite that allows parents that when their child has an autism diagnosis, that the parents are able to relax. They're able to go out to dinner, and the respite provides the parents with that opportunity to have a trained professional come to the house when that happens. So it's really important letting the parents know the services that are provided at the county level, at the state level, and the federal level. So we just had a Red Hawk University about edibles. There were only 8 parents that attended, but we copied it. So we videotaped this and go on our website. It's some pretty scary and disturbing stuff that is out there in the form of edibles where the packaging of the candy looks just like Skittles or Sour Patch Kids, but it's got THC in it. And so it was just on the news that the police had busted 2 illegal smoke shops right in a stone throw away from our main campus area, which a lot of the products were illegal and they were selling them to 15-year-olds. So these Red Hawk universities are great at the secondary level. We want to now extend those opportunities out for the parents. We would love for them to be able to be in person, but we also understand if volumes of parents are going to do this, it has to be for the time being remote through Zoom, and that's how the last one was done. With that being said, that's really popular right now. I've had a lot of parents ask me if we were going to be doing things like that at the elementary, because a lot of the parents, similar to the parents at the high school, had no idea where kids were hiding drugs or hiding their vape pens with more nicotine in one of those vapes than a whole packet, a carton of cigarettes, with these like electrical boxes where it's a false bottom and it comes out, or in Sharpie pens. Well, at the elementary level, parents are really concerned about depression, anxiety, signs, what they're seeing, and the simple fact that Oswego County leads all of New York State in suicide. We're not saying this to be doom and gloom, we're just saying this because that actually has been proven. And we want to be able to provide parents with as many resources and opportunities to be able to recognize those signs and be able to provide them, whether it's in-house. We have increased our contracting through Farnham Drug and Alcohol Services in our district. And I do superintendent hearings. If I can't make a superintendent hearing, Connie Galvan, my assistant superintendent, runs superintendent hearings. The ones that we do, when it's drug or alcohol related, the students can always come back far sooner if they agree to drug and alcohol counseling sessions. And I am very, very delighted that in the majority of those situations, the students had taken upon themselves to stay with that drug and alcohol counselor because it's a trusted adult, somebody they feel comfortable with. They go far beyond the minimal amount that would allow them to come to school earlier, which makes us very happy. When I have elementary teachers say to me, oh my gosh, I had that kid in my second grade class. I never would have thought that child would be doing that. It's not just the student that you would think, you know, when we were younger that fit a certain, you know, stereotype of somebody that was going to be smoking joints, you know, under the bleachers at a football game. This is our students that are great in school. These are students who are under a tremendous amount of stress. These are athletes that have gotten hurt and they're trying to self-medicate. It really is no one standard description of what the person looks like. And it's important that parents understand that, but they also understand that we're there to help them. It's not a punitive measure, we're just another resource. So those right there are the goals. They do have an instructional component, but they also, we want the community to understand we are utilizing that $13 million. We don't want to leave any of that on the table. We want to be able to submit in the grant submission process to get all $13 million and be able to utilize it, as I said, to close the instructional gap, but also to address the needs to stay operational. Tomorrow, I believe we have the substitute, correct? The substitute, say it again?
Substitute recruitment fair?
Yes.
Yes, I expect to see everybody there filling out an application or bringing a friend.
The substitute recruitment fair, which I've already gotten great, I put that, I posted it again on LinkedIn and I tweeted that out and I got people connecting with me on there saying, I'm going to be there. I'm going to do this, which is great because that's yet another opportunity. We need as many bus drivers, sub-bus drivers as we possibly can get to be able to stay operational. Anybody right now that has a television at home or a computer to look at the internet for the news sees how school districts are literally struggling. They have to go on these like 2-week pauses because they don't have the bus drivers, because bus drivers are out from COVID quarantine or they're out on just disability from a different medical situation. So we're paying all of our drivers to get trained to get their CDL. In years past, we never did that. We never had to do that. A lot of districts don't do that. But we need to do that because we need drivers that badly. We need to be able to do that. So again, with substitute teachers, everything right now, Lynn Dowers in the audience, Teachers Union President, we meet, I want to say once a month, but it seems like it's a lot more than once a month, twice a month, thanks. And even more than that, we call each other, we talk to each other all the time. That is a problem. I see other board meetings that I watch that are videotaped from other districts, and that's a common theme. We're struggling to be able to get people to even put in an application to be a substitute teacher. So right now, we're seeing every time we post for a position, whether it was the COVID coordinator or whether it was the transportation COVID coordinator, that position we only had 3 people apply. The hours were a little bit better. It's set hours. It's 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. But again, we only had 3 people go for that. When we see openings for teacher positions, we're not getting even on OLOS, it's the #1 way to recruit people, we're not getting anywhere near the numbers. And we're not alone, because all of the districts in the county, when we have superintendent meetings, say the exact same thing. I regularly get things saying, I'm trying to hire a math teacher for the past 4 weeks. That's a neighboring district. They just don't have people applying. So hopefully we'll be able to get at this job fair. And if anybody knows anybody that's interested, that wants to work in a great school district, have them reach out to Connie Galvan directly or myself, and we will hire them. The board has already given me authority between board meetings. I can add to that sub list. I can hire. We need to be able to hire. Luckily, we just got 7 more applications for sub drivers, and they're at this moment already being trained because they have to have a set amount of hours before they can actually be behind the wheel with students. So we are in that process right now, and I think we're a little bit ahead of other districts who are really struggling because we can pull people in from Onondaga County because part of us we're located in Onondaga County, as well as pulling people in from Oswego County. I think we're geographically located in a really good spot to be able to do that. Does anybody have any questions regarding those 4 goals? If at any time that you do, give me a call. The plan is to have regular updates when we have the updates throughout the school year with the reading and the math to be able to show you all where we are currently at. And I want to have it all on the website. So if all it takes is someone to be able to look right on our website, see what our goals are, and be able to see how we are progressing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Calabufo. At this time, I would like to ask for a motion to go into executive session to discuss matters leading to the appointment of a particular person with action to follow. I have a motion. Mrs.
Second.
Wood.
Second.
Second, Kathy. Okay, it's 7:27 for all in favor? Okay, thank you. Chance?
Second.
Look at Steve this time. And any discussion on personnel? All in favor? Item F. Can I have a motion for item F in its entirety?
I'll motion.
Mrs. Wood?
I'll second.
Mr. Patch?
If we can have Ryan Oyer stand up, we want to welcome you, our new Assistant Director for Pupil Personnel Services. Congratulations.
I did forget, I'm sorry. Item F, we have a motion with Lori and second by Mr. Patch. Can I have all in favor?
Oh, are you going to talk about?
Oh, I don't want to talk about that.
Okay, so on my superintendent report, I've got some things that I want to get through, recognizing some great things, student achievement. But prior to that, my first bullet that I have on there is just an acknowledgement of how we are utilizing the $13 million over the next 3 years that we have submitted for in grant form that have to actually qualify certain criteria. So part of that are any of the new positions that we had created to be able to address the learning gap and to remain operational. We are providing teachers, as I said, with a $25 a day, 30-minute lunch supervision, which is, as I said before, I thank Lindell, our Teachers Union President, who's in the audience. I thank the teachers that this has been very popular with because it provides them the opportunity to make $25 a day doing this, but the big payoff is the massively limiting number of quarantines, because when you have a big cafeteria, you couldn't sit 6 feet apart. They're able to take the kids to the classroom, spread their kids in different classrooms at 6 feet. The kids can take their masks off. That's a huge win. So that just literally leaves busing as our most vulnerable spot. There's a couple classes in the high school in science when they're doing their labs, but besides that, it would really just have to be with busing. So the teachers have that opportunity to make the $25 for the half an hour lunch there. If a teacher wants to give up their planning period because they don't feel comfortable providing synchronous simultaneous instruction for students in their class that are quarantined, that teacher can connect with the 1 or 2 students that they have quarantined in their classroom at the elementary level. There may be more students if it's a middle school teacher, but they can connect with them during their planning period and be paid $25 for that.
There's 2 different types of tutoring after school. There's tutoring from 2 different grants. One of the is $25 for the roughly 40 minutes, and the other one is $40. And that was all differentiated in the document that Connie Galvan has sent out a couple times now to the teaching unit to be able to clarify that. If teachers also, it's not just about instruction, but the whole engagement. We have the $13 million to be able to connect kids back to their learning environment. So we can have people at the middle school decide they want to do coding or Dungeons and Dragons or chess club, and they're paying the $25 for that 40 minutes. So if a teacher just wanted to do the $25 to cover the half hour each day, that comes out to $125 a week, which comes out to $500 a month, which comes out to, after 10 months, that comes out to $5,000. So they have the opportunity just to do the lunches, or they have the opportunity to even make more money, which is a win-win because A, it comes out of the COVID relief money that we use it or we lose it. And then it's also a win because it lowers those quarantine number of kids that could possibly be quarantined. And then if it's after school with these creative things that the kids really like to do, then it's another way to be able to compensate them. And at the same time, help us engage those students back because the pandemic has been so difficult. The people that are getting the $5,000 stipends, $2,500 in January and the $2,500 in June, those are the building level administrators and some district level administrators that are getting that because they are going beyond their normal contractual day. So they are helping that first line before it can get to the COVID coordinator. We have to know who in the building needs to be through close contact and whatnot needs to be quarantined for then that whole process with the COVID coordinator to make the phone calls and do all that to take place. And that happens after school, it happens on Saturdays, it happens on Sundays, but it's far easier for the building level principal to be able to do that than what it was when they were doing the whole thing. The spreadsheets, the phone calls to the parents and whatnot. So a tremendous amount has been taken off their plate, but they are still that first line in doing that after school and on the weekends and on holidays. So it's more than fair to be able to give that $2,500 half the year and then the $2,500 after that. Nurses, same thing, and they're on there. The head of transportation and the assistant director of transportation were also on there because they were doing the seating charts, and what they're doing right now, because they're driving buses, but then they got to come back and they still have to make sure that the bus sheets are updated. The building level staff that are getting it was Connie and Aaron, and again, that's because sometimes the principals are out or they're on vacation, and then they've got to step in, and they've done those responsibilities. I am not taking one of those stipends. I have had to leave the room and do all of that. I'm choosing not to do that. But I feel really comfortable the fact that the administrators who cannot put a timesheet in, if we had the administrators putting a timesheet in like we're having the teachers do it, that would be a $15,000 or $20,000 stipend, not a $5,000 stipend. And I'm just saying that because I want the administrators to know. I recognize what it's been on them, not only during the day, because it's been difficult for everybody during the day, but when they go home, I recognize how many times they left the dinner table. I recognize on a Saturday and a Sunday when they have events planned with their family what they have given up. I have taken those phone calls. I've had admin and nurses call me in tears. I've had head of transportation just ready to, put his head down. So I feel very comfortable the fact that we are compensating our teachers to provide a very important service. We're paying them extra to do that. It is completely optional if they so choose to do that in any of the varying degrees. Right now we have some teachers that are just doing the $25 per lunch each day. We have some teachers that are doing the $25 plus they're doing either $25 or $40 tutoring after school as well. And some that also have quarantine students are giving up their planning period, and they're also being monetarily compensated for that as well. So I just want everyone to know that it is fair, it is equitable, and I do really feel that the students and their families are benefiting from this. And again, it goes back to fiscal responsibility. We are utilizing the $13 million that if we don't use, we lose. So I'm happy in the way that we strategically are going about that. I meet with the teachers union president twice a month, but we talk on a regular basis. So everything that I'm saying right now is not news. As she's nodding her head, this is not new. She give thumbs up, because we have these conversations on a regular basis, which all superintendents and the union presidents should have. So for that, I publicly thank you, Lynn. Oh, now let's actually, here we go. I'm going to be real quick with this. Governor Hochul and the board, you're all aware of this. It came on a Friday memo. This is for all school districts in New York State. Governor Kathy Hochul signed legislation on October 19, 2021 that requires documents that are going to be discussed at board meetings be made available on request or posted on the web at least 24 hours prior to the meeting. After discussing this with our school attorney, Bethany Centrone, we have learned that if it is practicable, you must upload the documents 24 hours before the meeting. Our board meetings are on a Monday. So it is arguable whether it is practicable for the district to be able to meet the 24-hour requirement, as that would be on a Sunday. However, if we have documents available on Friday, they should be uploaded. So everything will be on the website the Friday before the board meeting, and since we're only having one board meeting a month unless we need an emergency board meeting, we just kind of loaded everything, so we're giving the board the opportunity to still have those 2 days before anybody else has access to those. Junior Samantha Haley became the all-time leader in goals saved at Central Square, surpassed the 500 save mark in her career. Sam was named the News Channel 9 Athlete of the Week and also had an article written on her in the Oswego County Weeklies. And then we provided the board with that link. During homecoming, our district raised $1,600 in donations to the Tyler Chrisman Scholarship Fund, and an additional $500 from the football boosters, for a total of $2,100. Thank you for everyone that donated. This was the JV football player that unfortunately lost their life in a game that Carthage had against West Tennessee, and I think pretty much everybody was aware of that. Just devastating. Again, it just showed the community spirit at Central Square to be able to step up and raise that money. Congratulations to Serena Hayden, senior at Paul B. Moore High School, for earning a seat in this year's NYSSMA Conference All-State Mixed Chorus. There were hundreds of students from across the state of New York who auditioned. All school districts have NYSSMA. It's another opportunity for a student to be able to potentially go down that pathway. And we have a lot of students that graduate from Paul B. Moore that get accepted into Crane and other very prestigious music schools. So kudos to her. The field band state championships took place this Sunday. It was on Halloween. Central Square scored an 87.50, which was their highest score for the season. Congratulations to the members of the Red Hawk Regiment Marching Band on a great season, but again, I'd like to thank all of the parent volunteers that put this on, because that in itself is an entire process. You saw that with our amazing home show, and without them, we would not be able to do that. The Paul B. Moore High School vocal concert will be November 9 at 7 p.m. in the Paul B. Moore High School Gymnasium, and the PVM High School Band Concert will be held on November 10 at 7 p.m. in the Paul B. Moore High School Gymnasium. Last week, the girls' varsity volleyball team provided a very special tribute to a volleyball peer that passed away this past summer. Several of the girls played volleyball with Natalie Bauer, who was a junior at Sandy Creek High School and passed away tragically in an automobile accident. I believe it was in Old Forge. The accident was this past summer in July. The gym was filled with blue balloons, posters, and several of Natalie's friends and family came to the Central Square game for this very special evening. It's pretty remarkable that one of our own students on our team knew this girl and wanted to do something special. So they were all wearing the same jerseys with the name Bauer on the back. The boys varsity soccer team not only won their first sectional game ever, they advanced all the way to the sectional final before they finally got eliminated by ESM Saturday afternoon. It was great community spirit. There were a ton of spectators from Central Square wearing maroon at the game. I was there. Many people tuned in to Channel 9 Friday before the weekend game, and they saw the friendly little bet that I had with Dr. Desiato, Superintendent ESM. I will say I honored that bet today, and I had to go at 3 o'clock to Trappers 2. pizza place located in Manoa within their school district. That's the one they picked, and I bought 10 large cheese pizzas, brought them to the players at the Spartan Stadium at ESM, and they were very appreciative. And they just, again, wanted to thank our team, and they played a really good game. It was a great game. 10 pizzas, yeah. Senior Ashley Congolino has committed to Niagara University, where she will play Division I soccer for the Purple Eagles and also studying nursing. We put out a survey, last 2 quick things, we put out a survey to elicit interest in parents that have children that are between the ages of 5 and 11 years old to see if they'd be interested in having a COVID-19 clinic for them. How is it our high school? Very similar to what we did last year when the health department went around to the different school districts and they ran a clinic at each school. So far, we have 641 responses. 59.6% that took the survey said no thank you. 40.4% said yes, please put on a survey for, put on a clinic like you did last year, but this time for the 5 through 11-year-olds. That is a total of 340 students total so far. I still was getting phone calls from parents today asking if we were going to have a clinic this year. So in another parent letter, I blasted out to 10,000 parents today. I had 2 main topics. That was one of the main topics, was that it looks right now that we will definitely do that, but please, if the parents have a child between 5 and 11 and they haven't taken that survey yet, they're not giving any of their information, they're just saying yes or no, and that will let the health department know better how many, because it's a different vial that Pfizer has to put for 5 to 11-year-olds. So the more information we have, the better. The letter also went out today. It talked about, we now have, and I picked them up on Friday, literally myself, went to the Oswego County Health Department. We got 5,150 Bionex Now rapid COVID tests. Results are within 15 minutes. I literally filmed a video, I had someone film a video of one of our nurses at, this case it was at Brewerton Elementary, put the swab up both my nostrils because I wanted parents to know this is not the, the very intrusive, what some people kind of nickname the brain ticklers that go all the way up. It is not. It goes, you see it. Did not hurt. It actually just tickled a little bit because it just barely went in, but I wanted parents to see that I didn't just say that it's a non-intrusive one without me doing it. And it's literally like a 20-second video. So that went out there as well. So basically what this means is the parent has the consent form now. They can either give it a written consent or they can give the verbal consent to the nurse. When they do that and a child has symptoms, then if the parent will still get a phone call from the school nurse and it will say your child is exhibiting COVID-19 symptoms. I even put those symptoms again in the letter. I hyperlinked it so they can see what they are. And they're going to say to the parent, I realize that you gave consent for us to test your child, but A, we want you to know your child has symptoms, and we still want to give you that choice. We can test your child because you gave consent, or you can come and pick up your child. And the reason why we wanted to do this is sometimes you could have a very young child having a difficult day or a difficult week, and the parent can say, you know what, I'll pick my child up. And so there's that still opportunity. I know that there's going to be parents that call and for whatever reason want to voice their frustration or concern with this, and I just publicly want to say this is just a service that the district is providing. They don't have to agree to it. We won't test them here. They could then take off work to come pick their child up because New York State Health Department is still requiring that. It's an alternate diagnosis from a healthcare provider or a COVID negative test. We got these tests at no cost to the district to be able to do this. We've had numerous parents say, when will you get these rapid tests? So as long as the parent agrees to it, we don't have to keep leaving work. Parents have talked about they're going to lose their job if they have to keep losing their job, keep leaving their job to come to do this. This is just a resource for the families. This isn't anything more than that. We have the opportunity. We have the rapid tests available to do this. the nurses will still call them to make sure that even though we have that signed permission, that the parent's still okay with it. If they don't want to do it, that's fine. Some parents have already said they're going to choose to keep their kid out for 10 days because that's what they feel is with the health department. That's their only option if they don't want to get their child tested. Okay. That's up to the parent to do that. This is just an additional service like having the vaccination clinic at our district. It's just providing people. We understand right now that while some parents say absolutely not, we have other parents that say, thank you, we recognize that the district providing that and we want to take advantage of it. That's all that is. And thus ends my superintendent report.
I don't think we voted on F.
Yeah, so I just meant,
I'm going
since,
back.
yeah, I just meant to give your,
Yeah.
you know, the discussion of the stipends slash.
That's okay.
Yeah. It's okay.
Done.
We're gonna go back to F anyways, just
That
to
was
make sure Pearl has
discussion.
it, yes.
Okay.
Pearl, just so you know, item F, I have Lori made a motion and then Mr. Patch made a second for item F, and I didn't get a vote on that yet, correct? Can I get it? All in favor? Okay, thank you. And Tom did his superintendent's report, so is there any board members that have anything to discuss? I just had one thing, it was the home show. I was glad to see Mrs. Nickerson and Mrs. Sundit there, along with Mr. Calabufo and a lot of the staff helping. We had 17 bands there, and it was not the best weather. So I just want to thank everybody, including parents, for your help. It was great, and 17 hours almost, but it's okay. And they did a great job, thank you. Anyone else?
Well, I could add to that. I saw a parent that is from the Phoenix School District and wanted to have me let Mark know. And the Music Boosters, what a fabulous show, and with all the people that were there, and he said it was a job well done.
Okay, anyone else for anything else? Okay, we'll move on to item H. I would like to do item H in its entirety, which is basically the second reading of a district policy 3420 and 3421, the boys varsity ice hockey contract, and then the student overnight trip. Can I get a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Patch, second. Mrs. Nickerson. All in favor for discussion? All good. And then item I, adjournment. Okay. Mrs. Nickerson,
I'll second.
Mr. Patch. All in favor? Okay, thank you. Have a wonderful